Okay, so let's start the lecture. Today's lecture is on the history of innovation, and we'll focus on the ancient world and the Renaissance. Of course, we'll have a little bit of review from yesterday. Yesterday, we did a lot of biology, and we talked about cellular respiration. We talked about myoglobin, hemoglobin. We talked about teeth and molars and plant defenses and all these different things. You don't need to memorize and absolutely learn these particular topics, you know, oxidation reduction and where glucose is. This was to give you a flavor of the tremendous level of innovation involved in biological systems, and also to raise the question, you know, why that occurred, how that occurred. And the answer, of course, is evolution. And so, given that some of the biggest and the most incredible innovation is in the biological world, it would be very useful to study how that happens if we want to understand management of innovation management. What sorts of businesses, what sorts of management should we do to encourage our own innovation? And as you'll see today, this theory of evolution will be a very important framework. So we will review that as I mentioned. Okay, so we finished 2 sessions, and this session is going to be now focusing on history of innovation. And just wanted to mention that this part 1 is on the fundamentals and history, and part 2 will be on methods and applications related to management of innovation. So here's the question for today. I got responses from almost everyone, some very interesting responses. So I will call on a few people just for diversity's sake. And in your opinion, who is the most innovative person of all time? So let's start with Kai Min. Kai Min.
Yes, Professor.
Okay, so what's your answer to this discussion question? No answer?
Wait a moment.
Okay.
I think the most innovative person of all time is Watt. In his life, he innovated and improved the steam. And according to the constant turning of the catalyst, which promoted the first industrial revolution, he made great contributions to the development of the world economy because of his good discovery and his creativity. Thank you.
Yeah, very good answer. So we're actually going to talk about the steam engine in this lecture because it's part of history of innovation. And the steam engine, I think you're hinting at, is very interesting because it enabled a lot of other innovations. We call these enabling innovations. And in fact, it was such an important enabling innovation that it essentially gave rise, as you said, to the first industrial revolution. So that's a very good perspective. Obviously, this is more a matter of your opinion, and I said opinion here, so there's no one right answer, but that's a very interesting answer. So thanks for sharing that. Let's go to Debo Shim, Shim Debo.
To me, the most innovative person or figure was the Wright brothers.
Okay.
And it's because I think that they were the pioneers in the airplane field, and that they set a milestone for opening the possibility of flying to people. I think that's why they're the most innovative.
Great. Thank you very much for sharing that. Let's go to Yang Yu. Yang Yu. Yang Yu.
Hi, Professor.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. I think the most innovative person is Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs. And why do you say that?
His innovation is that an environment where multiple factors restrict each other, product performance reaches the best level.
So I didn't understand that. Explain a little bit more.
Yeah, Steve Jobs achieved new heights through apps careful transformation. At the same time, he raced from animation to full level and
animation, yes. So he did
yeah.
many different types, yes. So remember I mentioned, yeah, sorry.
And completely changed the musical distribution industry.
Sure. Yeah, well, Steve Jobs is a very interesting example because he is one of those examples that bridges both science and technology and art and humanities. Very powerful example of that. So actually next semester, in the spring semester, I'll be teaching a course called Innovation Through the Integration of Science and Art. It's going to be a very special, different course. If you think this course is different, wait till you go to that course. It's going to be even more innovative. So I think it's Gen 223 or something. It's a liberal arts course, undergraduate level, where we'll talk about science and art. Now, what's interesting about Steve Jobs is, he was not just a technology person. He was very interested in music. He was very interested in art. He was very interested in typography. And he took a class in college on typography. In other words, if you look at this is Garamond type. But we can change this to, or this is Book Antigua, excuse me. We can change this to Bauhaus. We can change this to Algerian. These are all different type. And when the Apple computer first came out, this was really, a big revolution. And computers previous to that had very standardized type. And he created these beautiful screens, and people were interacting with the computers in a very human or much more human and much more artistic way. And so what's interesting about that is he was not interested in type, but he decided to take the class in college, and it stayed with him forever, and he thought it was one of the best classes. He did exactly the curiosity project that I'm telling you to do, or I'm asking you to do for this Friday. He just was curious. He thought it was interesting. And later on in his career, he applied it in a revolutionary way. So Steve Jobs is a very good example. Thanks, Yang Yu, for sharing that. Okay. Let's go
Excuse me, Professor.
Yeah.
Could you please tell us what is your opinion about this question?
In your opinion, who is the most innovative person? I actually think there are many people. There's not just one person.
Yes, so do I. So it's hard to answer this question in yesterday's assignment.
Well, you could answer by saying there are many people and you disagree with the question. That
Thank
would
you.
be innovative, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So, right. So nobody did that, but that's because in your education and in all the classes, you're trained to follow the professor's directions and, just do what the professor says. But this is an innovation class. And if you want to do extra or you want to do something different, but still contributing to, the discussion, that's okay. Now, if you want to talk about, how you played a video game last night and you had a good time and you went drinking with friends and whatever, which is unrelated to the class, that's not okay. In fact, that's a very interesting point is innovation is not just wildness. Innovation is not crazy ideas just for the sake of being crazy. Remember, innovation is connected to reality. So if you answer this question in a completely ridiculous way, unrelated to the question, in other words, not related to reality, that's not innovative. But if you were to answer, I don't think most innovative person is a right question. I think it's many people or whatever, some sort of little twist or difference, I can fully respect that because this is an innovation class. So my answer is there is no most innovative person of all time. There are many different innovative people. And over the course of their career, sometimes they're more innovative, sometimes they're less innovative. So there's also the element of time, etc. So that's a very good point. I'll give you an example. I taught a class once in computers. This was when I was in between high school and college. I taught a computer class that was a special computer class on programming and coding and all that. And this was part of NYU, New York University. And I gave assignments for software projects. And I said, if you do these assignments, I gave like 5 possible assignments. One was like a game, one was like a traffic control, or one was like a database related, whatever. There were some projects. So I said, if you do one of these 5 projects, you will, and you do it really well, you will get a B. And if you do the project perfectly, you will get a B. And I said, the only way you can get an A is if you come up with your own project and you do it, very nicely. And I set out the rules. And one student came to me afterwards and they said they got a B. And he said I did a perfect project. The software was running. It was very good. And I didn't get an A. Why'd you give me a B? And I explained it. And I said, to get an A, you had to come up with your own idea. They were very upset. And what's interesting is many years later, I met him again. His girlfriend was in my medical school and he was visiting, and I met him again. And he said, that was one of the best experiences I ever had. I was very angry that I got a B. He was a good student, whatever, always very proud and competitive and all that. He said, but I never had an experience where I just had to come up with my own idea like that, and where the grade depended on me coming up with my own idea. And he said that was a real learning experience. So anyway, we're not going to do that in this class, but bear in mind that in an innovation class, this is not just about correct answers. On the other hand, this question here is not a trick question. I wasn't trying to say, what do you think is the most innovative? And, oh, I tricked you. And actually, there's no most innovative. This is just for discussion. So these are not trick questions. They are substantive discussion points. And you can tell from this discussion that we've covered a lot of things already. We have 4 people answer. We talked about enabling innovations, the steam engine. We talked about Steve Jobs and science and art. We talked about answering these questions and thinking outside the box, and coming up with your own questions and your own answers. So Yun Peng, I'll ask you, if you don't think this is a good question, how would you rephrase this question?
Actually, I was thinking about whom to write, like, but finally I wrote someone I like.
And what's your opinion?
I'm a IT geek, IT fan, so I wrote Steve Jobs.
Okay.
Actually,
Now
I wanted to write some other product manager who are very excellent in China, but I guess you don't know, so I wrote someone you may familiar with. Yeah.
Well, that's very interesting that you say, I'm an IT geek and I want to do something in there. If you were to be very serious in this class, this innovation class, you'd say, I want to be thinking outside the box. Professor Gurel is encouraging us to go outside my comfort zone. If I were you, if I was Yun Peng, and I knew I was an IT geek, which is great, I respect it a lot. I was an IT geek. I was teaching computer science. I know exactly what that is. It's an incredible field. But if I was really interested in innovation, I would say, okay, I'm an IT geek. I know everybody here. I know all the ones in China. I'm an expert. I would look for someone outside that field. Now, I may not know everything about you, Yun Peng, and your background. So I wouldn't know that you went outside your comfort zone, right? But you would know you went outside your comfort zone. That's what's important. You would know that you pushed, thinking outside the box in your own mind. Because ultimately, whether you're pushing yourself is your own decision, your own sort of situation. I can't really assess that. So if you came up with an artist, or you came up with a biologist, or you came up with a physicist as opposed to IT person, you could say to yourself, oh, I took this assignment and it made me think outside my area of interest. So I'm not criticizing, but I am saying you could push yourself more. And that's what innovation is about. Okay, very good. Sung Jun Yu, you wanted to say something?
Yes.
You Sung Jun?
Yes, I also wanted to speak about this.
Okay.
The first person that was on my mind was also Steve Jobs, but I didn't wrote that because
Okay.
I thought that he is really famous and he is one of the most innovative person of all time. So I thought that many students will write that and it will make you maybe a kind of bit
Bored.
bored. Yeah. So I just decided to who write down that I am interested right now. So what I thought was Big Mac, and Big Mac was
Big
interesting
Mac.
because yeah, Big Mac.
Who's
So
that?
the creator of Big Mac is called Jim Deligetti,
Okay.
and I did a research on him, but he was a innovative person because he was an owner of McDonald's franchise at first.
Ah, okay, yes.
Okay, and then he sold a hamburger just twice size of the original one because customers asked him about the size of the burger, and
Yes.
then he did a good job on that, and he actually increased his branch until like 48 branches.
Right.
And then after that, he actually got received official permission from McDonald's. And in 2008, McDonald's reported that 550 million Big Macs were sold at that year. And it is also used in economics to compare prices in each country.
That's right.
So,
The Big Mac Index.
yeah.
Yeah. That's great. I really like your answer, and I'll tell you why. First of all, you described how you wanted to not do what the other students were probably going to do, like Steve Jobs, etc. And you wanted to think of something different answer. But you did agree that Steve Jobs is very innovative, so I'm not saying that's a wrong answer. But you had the desire to do something different, which I thought was very interesting and of course important. And then you looked at someone really outside your area. I assume you're not a, fast food, expert or directly. So you said you researched it and so forth. So that was very interesting. You went outside your box. And then you you said something that struck me very interesting. You said you perhaps didn't want to bore the professor. And I thought that was very interesting because that's a very Korean sort of thing. In Korean, we call that nunchi. As you know, nunchi is a kind of awareness of what the other person is thinking. And my first uh, feeling was, I don't want you to do something because it would make me happy and make me sort of whatever comfortable. But then I thought about it again. I said, that's not such a bad thing for Sung Jun Yu to think about, because remember, innovation is not just a crazy idea. It has to be connected with the reality, it has to be connected with the market, has to be connected with people valuing it. So the fact that he's thinking about what I think is not so bad an idea. Um, what I don't like is sometimes students take classes and they only say, I want to make the professor happy. I don't care about the mathematics. I don't care about the economics. I don't care about the subject. I just care to get my A by making and align everything I do to make the professor happy. That's not a good sentiment. But what you expressed to me was kind of some aspect of innovation where you do have a connection to making people happy or understanding their needs and have some connection to that. So that was a very nice answer, mixing that kind of I want to be different with I don't want to be so different that I'm not connected to what the professor is looking for, or something that's connected that will be valuable to the class. That was really fascinating. The Big Mac. I learned something new about Jim Deligatti. I posted the Wikipedia article, and so thank you for sharing that. We'll go with one more student, Abdulaziz.
Hey, good morning, Professor.
Good morning.
Thank you for letting me speak. Well, yeah, when I saw the question, actually, I was quite confused because it's very broad to answer, and telling the name of one person might be wrong because depending on the field, industry, or the science,
That's
there
right.
were like a lot of innovators in history. But what I wrote was Leonardo da Vinci. I think,
Okay, great.
yeah, well, actually, I'm quite interested in history. And when I was looking for a person to write, I focused
Yeah.
on the importance of their innovation. And
Mm-hmm.
yes, I agree with Steve Jobs' option because he's a really tech guy and he changed a lot of things in technology. But the Leonardo da Vinci like was not only kind of uh, not only the painter, but he was also kind of scientist, engineer, philosopher, and innovator. Like we know like his sketches about
Yes.
helicopter, tank, and different uh, modern technologies nowadays. So This is my answer.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you,
I'm
sir.
very happy with that answer. The reason is I was debating whether to call on another student. Maybe Abdul Aziz has lots of nunchi, because I was debating whether to call another student because I was actually going to discuss Leonardo da Vinci. But Abdul Aziz mentioned Leonardo da Vinci, so that was worked out very well. Maybe he was thinking what I was thinking. So here's my question. I was going to actually ask the question. There is some feeling, because of what Abdul Aziz mentioned, Leonardo da Vinci was in art, in science, in so many different areas, in technology and engineering, medicine, anatomy. He was in so many different areas. Some could say that Leonardo da Vinci was the most innovative person of all time. So I'm going to set a poll and ask a question. This is the first time I'm doing this poll, by the way, so let's make sure it works. How does it work here? Manage poll. Bear with me for a second. Poll 1, edit, add a question. Okay, here it goes. Okay, apologies for okay, I launched the polling. You want to take a look? That was my first time with a poll. It looks like it's working. Of course, there are many innovative people, but who here thinks that of everyone, that Leonardo da Vinci could quite possibly be the most innovative person of all time? I said things, but it should be thinks. So we have 50% answered. We need a few more people.
Excuse me, Professor.
Yeah.
Can I give a comment?
Let's just answer the poll first, and we're going to talk about it.
Okay, thank you.
But I misspelled things. I meant to say thinks. So sorry about that. Who here thinks that of everyone, that Leonardo da Vinci could quite possibly be the most innovative person of all time? Okay, we need 7 more people to vote. Six more people. Five more people. Let's get to 90%. Okay, has everyone voted? Okay, I'm going to end the polling now. Okay, can you see the results? Yes, you can see the results?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay,
Professor.
great. So 55% said yes and 45% said no. My answer would be no. And why do you think I do not believe that Leonardo da Vinci was quite possibly the most innovative person of all time? Why do you think I don't believe
May I
it?
answer, Professor?
Yeah.
Okay. The
Well,
Maksat?
yes,
Maksat.
well, as we already talked about invention, innovation, we see the quite like the difference between them. So innovation is when you uh, try to realize, like, put in reality all your ideas.
Yes.
And we know that Leonardo da Vinci, he was like ahead of his time, and
Yes.
all his like ideas, he couldn't like to do them at his time. Of
That's
course,
right.
he was thinking about the future, and like he was far ahead of time, but he never could like create them at his time.
Right. So that's exactly right. That's why I wanted to talk about Leonardo da Vinci. I think that is a reasonable question to ask if Leonardo da Vinci was the most inventive person of all time. Although, of course, there are many inventive people, but that's a relevant question for Leonardo da Vinci. But most of his creations did not become reality. He made flying machines, he made robots, he made tanks, all these sorts of things that absolutely were impossible in his time. And of course, he made some paintings that became quite prominent and influential. So it wasn't like he was a total dreamer, but relative to his inventions, he wasn't very successful in implementing that. So we cannot say he was, very innovative. In fact, it may sound strange, but Bill Gates, who's not always regarded as, creative genius, but Bill Gates could be considered more innovative by this definition than Leonardo da Vinci. But I think Leonardo da Vinci, most people would agree, is more creative and inventive than, Bill Gates, so of Microsoft. So this was a very good discussion. I'm glad that we went into it. So let's,
Sir.
yeah,
Sorry for interrupting. I have a question.
yeah,
Oh, well, actually, I was quite concerned about like, uh, let's say in terms of being an innovative person. So there are like we are saying like a Bill Gates and a Steve Jobs, but their products are kind of yes unique and iPod iPhones. But what I mean is like if there are people who thought the kind of original uh, idea in the history, but now people are let's say copying or just they're editing something and they're making it themselves. Let's say the being innovative means like yeah, Da Vinci came up with original ideas about like a helicopter and other things,
yeah, right,
even though he didn't really build it at the time because of time was not really right. But let's say I cannot tell anyone who built the airplane and became innovative. No, he got the idea
right.
from Da Vinci. And what do you think about it? So is it really matter who
Well, this
thought
is
the idea or who copied it and put
yeah.
it in?
So this is complicated. I mean, you know, this is a management of innovation in a business school class. So obviously, innovation without all this creativity, without being the first person, is difficult. Although you can have innovation without creativity, we saw that with the IBM PC. But I'm very interested in this definition of innovation related to the implementation. So if you're doing a startup and you do the first MP3 player, but another company like Apple, you know, gains the market, then what's the point of that? You know, of course you could be considered, you know, everyone admires you, but you didn't succeed. This is a business school, and your purpose is to, you know, do successful enterprises around innovation, which is very critical. So this definition of innovation, which is the how should I say, the well accepted definition of innovation, is also meant to be relevant to your education and careers. I want you to be innovative, but I don't think it would be valuable to turn you into a Leonardo da Vinci. Now, of course, that might be great, but that means you're not going to be a successful business person. You know, you're going to be a very creative person. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, it might be better. Who knows? But the point is, we are in a business school, and we want to create value for society. And one of you mentioned your goals is to make lots of money and so forth. So we have to think about this definition of innovation, of getting things accomplished that are new now, not 100 years from now, but now. So this is a very practical definition as well as an abstract definition. And so Leonardo is a perfect example. I don't think any venture capitalist would give him any money because, you know, even though he was the smartest person of all time, perhaps, you know, he's not innovative. I mean, he's inventive. So that's why I really want to make this distinction. It's very important. Now, the other point that you raise is also very interesting. Like the IBM PC, innovation doesn't have to be radical new ideas all the time. It can be combining ideas. One reason why I ask you to watch a webinar outside your area, and Yun Peng, if you tell me you watched an IT webinar, I will count points against you because I already know IT is your area. So you gave away your area. So you have to do something in another area other than IT. But anyway, I'm kind of joking. But my point is, if you do the webinar in an area outside your area of interest, you can combine things. I'm joking, Yun Peng. Don't be so upset. You can combine things. You come with a fresh perspective. The fact that Yun Peng is a IT expert, but if he goes to a webinar about K-pop, I don't know, something, right? And he says, well, maybe I can do some IT product, a new sort of entertainment platform with K-pop or something. He comes up with a new idea. It often happens when you go outside your boundary area. So what's interesting about this is that you don't have to just sit there and be a Leonardo da Vinci to be innovative. You don't have to be always creative. You can just look at old ideas and figure out how to implement them effectively.
Yeah, but still, Professor, I have a question.
Okay.
Yeah, when we are talking about Da Vinci, maybe one of the most innovative person of all people of all the time. But my question is how to rank creating and innovating ability. How to rank
Yeah.
it?
So we're going to have a lecture on innovation measurement.
Oh,
That's a
okay.
whole topic. Now, I'm asking you the question now before we've had the benefit of an innovation measurement methodology or system that I will present later. But I'll tell
Yeah,
you
but
a little.
Yeah, Professor, I think people's innovation ability should be respected by everyone of all the time of human, all the history of all people in the world. Who can be the most innovative person? That's my question. Even the boy in my garden under the floor, I think he is innovative. Sometimes
That's right.
yes.
No, I agree. So actually, this is very interesting. We talk about most innovative, but everyone has capacity for innovation. That's what it means to actually be human. So that's a whole philosophical issue. We're not going to delve into that. So that's indeed right. But I will tell you a little bit of a secret. I'm asking you these questions about ranking, if you will, innovation and invention, etc. But in reality, even though I'm going to give a lecture on it, there is no good measurement system for innovation. So it's still going to be in an opinion. Anyway, let's keep going. We're getting a little late for time.
Thank you for answer question.
Thank you.
Answers.
So we're going to do a quick review of the biology that we did. We gave some examples of innovation. Remember the 4 cusp molar in order to allow people to have a much more diversified diet. Remember the bone, which is hard and flexible. So it's not just like a rock. Bone has a rocky component, calcium phosphate, but it also is not like a rock. So it's not brittle and can crack easily. It can actually bend. So to break a bone, takes a fair bit of force to do that. We talked about the darkling beetle getting water from air. And then we discussed how these innovations arose in terms of evolution. And there were 3 features and their implications: the genotype, which is the DNA; the phenotype, which is how it interacts with the environment; and of course, the environment. And the 3 implications are that this capability, the genotype, needs to be transmitted to other generations. So we need to be able to share the innovation. So Leonardo da Vinci doesn't just sit in his studio and just dream. He actually writes and he draws and he shares it with the world. So that type of sharing is extremely important, and be able to transmit the ideas. So in evolution, that would be the hereditability of fitness. And then the phenotypes or the ideas have to be very diverse. We call that phenotypic variation. You have some people that are short, some people that are tall, some people that have blue eyes, some people that have brown eyes, all these differences, and of course, much more complex differences are phenotypic variation, and the same, of course, for all of life. And then the third element is that variation will interact differently with the environment. We call that differential fitness. So the environment will, over time, select certain features over other features. Now, what's important that this is not necessarily good features or bad features. They depend on the environment. So this is the same for innovation. You may have an idea that works in China, but doesn't work in America. You may have an idea that works in Europe, but doesn't work in Korea. So differential fitness is very important. Then we talked about bio-inspired innovation. So not just biology is a good framework that we're going to talk about, evolutionary framework, but it also has led to serious innovations. So if you're thinking about your own innovations, even in software and IT, you should be thinking about some biological examples. So we're going to take a break here, and we're going to go into the main part of the lecture, which will be about innovation in the ancient world. We'll talk about some top innovations in history. We'll talk about ancient Rome, and then we'll discuss a little more detail the Renaissance, Leonardo da Vinci, and Michelangelo. And we will discuss these ancient innovations in the context of this theory of evolution. So you can see that we're going to integrate biology and we're going to integrate history together, come up with new ideas and frameworks on how innovation works. So it's now 9:53, and let's return at 10 minutes after 10. We will return at 10:10. Okay. Very quickly, any questions?